Hello everyone, welcome back to Been My Pleasure. My name is JC and I have a few things I'd like to talk to you about for the month of March. Welcome back to Been My Pleasure, everyone. Again, my name is JC and this is the month of March. March is the beginning of spring. It is not the worst time of the year for drinking and drinking related accidents that occur, but it is the start of the season, as it were. We have several events. We have spring training baseball, we have spring break, we have March Madness, and of course we have that Irish thing, St. Patrick's Day. So even though one of those or some of those may not apply to you, at least one of them, if not all of them, shall. For example, if you're in the greater Phoenix metropolitan area or you're somewhere in Florida, I'm not sure where the Grapefruit League is, you're going to have spring training baseball. So you're going to have a huge influx of visitors from out of towns who don't know their way around and may not know their level of intoxication when they're driving about from point A to point B to watch these baseball games. The other thing you might have is spring break. Now here in Phoenix, it's not going to be quite as large. We do have a major campus here, but they tend to go down to Mexico or to San Diego or some other place. But if you happen to be in San Diego or Rocky Point, Mexico, then you are expecting a great influx of student drinkers. Now, they're not always the most insightful of drinkers. The people who imbibe, who are young people, tend to overindulge. So do be careful of them, mind them, and make sure you put them in a car if they need to be. I know they can be quite stubborn sometimes, but it's up to you to do your due diligence and get them into their vehicles and on their way. Now, the other thing that may occur is March Madness. That's going to happen everywhere. So you're going to have a lot of people coming into your bar or your bar and grill to watch games and being fascinated by games they would never watch in a million years, but because it's in their bracket, they're going to be rooting for them all the way and they're going to want to drink a lot. So again, monitor your responsible service of alcohol standards and make sure that you're not over imbibing any of your customers and guests. And if you are, that you've made arrangements for them to get home in some fashion, be it the local municipality, bus stops and light trains, for example, or some type of cab. So you want to make sure they get home. And of course, everybody, and I mean everybody, is going to be dealing with St. Patrick's Day because everybody turns Irish on St. Patrick's Day. Kind of like next month or 2 months from now when everybody on Cinco de Mayo is suddenly from Mexico. That's just the way it is. So on St. Patrick's Day, you want to be especially careful. If you happen to be in a Patty's, O'Murphy, O'Hallahan, O'Toole's, one of those places, you know you're going to get busy and you've already got your standards in place, I would like to think. If you are working someplace that isn't a Irish pub, for example, then you're probably going to need your green dye to turn your beers into green beer. Just a drop or two into your light or your Pilsner will turn it green. Mind your fingers, you'll get them real bright green if you're not very careful with that. Don't put it in afterwards and then stir it up. So that's a little tip from me to you if you're thinking about making green beer. But back to the issue at hand. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to be drinking on St. Patrick's Day, a lot of shots of whiskey. So you need to be careful because shots of whiskey are just as poignant as a full glass of beer. And don't forget, it's 6 ounces of wine, 2 ounces of whiskey, for example, or tequila or some other type of hard liquor. And then there's also beers that you might want to look into. You know, somebody could probably have 6-7 beers and be all right over the course of 3 to 4 hours. But that might be pushing it. So you need to be mindful of your guests all month long. And this is just the start of it. The most fatalities in the great state of Arizona do not occur in March. They occur in June, July, alcohol-related fatalities, that is. So we'll talk about that as the temperature increases. And I think you'll find that's the case several times over whenever you're serving your guests wherever you happen to be. So those are the big key points for responsible service alcohol. Look out for your student drinkers who may not be, or younger people who are drinking who may not be of age. You're going to have to double check their IDs, of course. Look out for your spring training people who might be over enthusiastic about their chances of their baseball club making it to the World Series this year when we all know the Diamondbacks are going to be there. Or you want to make sure that your March Madness people are rooting for Gonzaga or Valparaiso or whomever they're rooting for, even though we all know Indiana's going to win it all. And you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye out on your fellow Irishmen to make sure that they're not, Irishmen and women, to make sure they're not overboard and being overzealous with their own alcohol consumption so that everybody gets home and there's no accidents, except for maybe some that'll show up 9 months later, but we'll share that for another time. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, folks. That's all I wanted to talk about for the month of March. I've got a couple of videos coming up after this one that are incognito, so keep an eye out for those. And if you'd like to see them, by all means, subscribe to this channel by clicking on my my pixelated face, and you'll be in the queue to hear whenever new content is dropped. If you've enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up. If you think what I'm telling you is a waste of time, give me a thumbs down. I don't mind. In either event, thank you very much for joining me, but I assure you, it's been my pleasure.